Well, it is the morning after the third and final debate. We're live here in the desert, and somewhere in Las Vegas is Kellyanne Conway, who joins us via satellite from a couple of blocks away. Good morning to you, Kellyanne.
Good morning.
How are you? The magic of technology.
Okay. I know it. We're going to talk about the performance of each of the candidates in a moment, but first, I know after every debate, people have had many, many comments about the moderators. How do you think Chris Wallace did? For our money, and for the money of Brent Bozell over at Media Research Center, he gives him an A+ because he stayed out of the way. He asked the same number of hard questions of each. How did Chris Wallace do?
Chris Wallace was fantastic as a moderator for particularly the reasons that you said. I think he put the feet to the fire of both Clinton and Trump last night. And he also didn't let them interrupt each other too much. I actually think that we saw Hillary Clinton interrupting Donald Trump more than we had in the past. But I thought what Chris Wallace did was he took the 5 or 6 topics that were given to us in this last debate, and he got right to the questions on the Supreme Court, on foreign hotspots, fitness to be president, entitlements, that really roil both of these candidates, holding them to account for past positions they made or incomplete points in their policies, as is the case of Hillary Clinton. So it's exactly what a moderator should do: ask the questions, not be a participant, and I feel like the voters benefited tremendously.
Okay. Kellyanne, something last night that he talked about, they asked, would you promise to accept the election results? And he said he wasn't able to answer that at the time. I know mainstream media is covering this. It's the headline on every other network. What was your response to that?
I'm not surprised they're covering it, Ainsley, only because they certainly wouldn't want to cover Donald Trump challenging Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation to give back the money to these countries that don't respect women, that, as he put it, throw gays off of buildings. Women don't have many rights there. She never responded to that, of course. We can maybe check up a little bit later and break some news with the Clinton Foundation. Will you, in fact, return the money to these countries, particularly you, who says, Hillary Clinton, you're fighting for women, fighting for children. You're fighting against them when you take money from countries that don't respect them. I also think that they're deflecting away from, I thought it was a pretty tough debate for Hillary Clinton, and a debate that Donald Trump clearly won. He kept her on her toes with respect to the 30 years of failed policies and a lack of action. I mean, if 75% of Americans want to take the country in a new and different direction, you can't possibly, with a straight face, go for Hillary Clinton, who's part of the problem, not part of the solution. Donald Trump clearly won the debate. With respect to the rigged system and the certification results, he basically is saying that until he knows, you could lay out any hypothetical, until he knows the results, they're certified and verified, he's not going to completely concede an unknown. Al Gore, had you asked him sitting in this chair 16 years ago, lady and gentlemen, would he have conceded election? He'd say, sure, I'll respect the results, but then he sees he's only losing by 500 and some votes in Florida. He won the popular vote. He concedes the election to George W. Bush, calls back, retracts the concession, and then we know what happened next 5 or 6 weeks before the United States Supreme Court rules.
If you look at what how Donald Trump answered questions, even though the word was he wasn't studying that hard, clearly there was a lot of studying going on behind the scenes. Having said that, Kellyanne, do you wish he would have maybe not said, I'm going to contest the election, therefore they could have focused more on what he did accomplish during the debate?
Well, he said a couple things over time. Last night he said that, and he also said that he would respect the election if she won it. Since then, he's been reading stories about irregularities, massive vote fraud on the rolls anyway. You've got millions of people, apparently, we read the stories, millions of people who are dead who are still on the rolls. You certainly have irregularities. James Carville is quoted in today's Washington Examiner saying, of course, there'll be some fraud. So it's not without basis. But at the same time, I think the broader message of Donald Trump talking about the rigged, corrupt system is very important when your opponent is Hillary Rodham Clinton. And your opponent has used the State Department as a concierge for foreign donations, has colluded with members of the media. We know what she thinks of all of us behind the scenes in unguarded moments. So when he talks about a rigged, corrupt system, he sounds a lot like Bernie Sanders in the primary. He too complained about a rigged, corrupt system.
Right. Do you know also he's the Bernie Sanders that John Podesta called a doofus? Donna Brazile also, when Hillary Clinton was battling for the nomination, she was battling against Bernie Sanders. At which time there's a missive in the WikiLeaks stack that shows that Donna Brazile got a question and fed it to the Clinton camp ahead of time. Megyn Kelly, I guess, is the first one to ask Donna Brazile about this. I want you to watch together, and we could all watch together and then get your comment.
But you were accused of receiving a debate question before a CNN town hall where they partnered with TV One, and that you had this question on March 12th, that verbatim was provided by Roland Martin to CNN the next day. How did you get that question, Donna?
I did not receive any questions from CNN. I will not sit here and be persecuted because your information is totally false. What you're telling the American people, well, Podesta's emails were stolen. You're so interested in talking about stolen
material. So you deny it?
You're like a thief that want to bring into the night the things that you found that was in the gutter.
This is Jake Tapper. My understanding is that the email to Donna Brazile came from either Roland Martin or someone around Roland Martin. He said this is very upsetting and very troubling. That's your own colleague at CNN. It's not Megyn Kelly. Who gave you that question?
I am not going to try to validate falsified information.
Your email to the Clinton camp said, sometimes I receive the questions in advance.
CNN has never provided me with questions, absolutely ever, nada.
Well, when you said from time to time I get the questions in advance, what were you referring to? Because in that email you offered the exact question that one of the moderators, Roland Martin, then proposed the next day.
A lot of those emails, I would not give them the time of the day. I've seen so many doctored emails.
Kellyanne?
Well, I think we saw a number of revelations over the last week or two with respect to journalism. You've got even the New York Times saying, who's of course endorsed Hillary Clinton, saying that Jim Rutenberg said you'll suspend all standards of objective journalism. Other people say they're duty-bound to stop Donald Trump, even if it means that they're compromised in reporting. And I think you see it in some of these other emails too, where you have actual journalists, working journalists, asking members of the Clinton, senior members of the Clinton campaign, is it okay if I write the article this way? Edit it if you like. 96% of the donations coming from journalists went to Hillary Clinton. Guys, this is clear evidence. I mean, for a campaign for Hillary Clinton and her ilk to constantly traffic in unfounded accusations and repeat them like they're fact, to not confront and not actually confront and condemn 96% of these donations and the collusion. So I think this is part of what Donald Trump says, Ainsley, when he talks about a rigged, corrupt system. He talks about how the fix is in. I mean, if you have a remote control or you have a computer anywhere near you, you can see what he means on most days.
There you go. All right, Kellyanne Conway joining us after a short turnaround last night. Kellyanne, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kellyanne.